Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Of course, we are talking all things Paddy Kehoe Suspended Ceilings Gold Cup from Shelbourne Park, but we'll also be speaking a little bit about the Greyhound and Pet World Juvenile Classic, which kicked off in some style at Tralee on Saturday night. I'm joined as always by the Exile Dub, Tommy Lyons, and an Irish friend, an Irish cousin from across the water. He's known as Joe Conneely, but for our purposes today, we might just call him Joe Conneely because he might as well be an Irish name. Joseph Conneely, sure, you couldn't go wrong. Joe, welcome to the show. Of course, you're no stranger. You did one of our road shows with us. You keep a keen eye on the Irish action and lots over the weekend to keep you interested.
Yeah, good morning, Ian. Good morning, Tommy. And yeah, fantastic action over the weekend, obviously with Shelbourne and Tralee. And as you said, the Juvenile Classic looks like it's going to be a special competition. But yeah, all roads lead to Saturday at Shelbourne Park, the mecca of ground racing, and we've got a fantastic final to look forward to as well.
Yeah, there was also some great racing across the water. Belmore Sally retained her golden jacket title. She's some star. I gave kudos last year to Stephen who bred her, and it's a great one. She's a proper stayer, and of course your winter derby started in Monmore as well. So good action.
It did. Belmore Sally to do it twice, 2 years in a row, is some feat. You know, it wasn't as strong as last year's competition, but to still go back a year later and do what she did and even break the section, she broke the sectional she won the sectional market, shall I say? And I think Phil put her up at the start. Phil Donaldson put her up to do that, and she did the same thing in the final last year. She popped out when she had to. She's led round the bend again on Saturday, and that would be that. And a massive run from Roland Sydney and beyond, who went kind of unnoticed through the competition to finish second, and Olga as well for a good friend, Pat Curtin, who ran a big race in third. And then you went on to Monmore in the evening. It was all about Hopes Paddington, Coolabany Shadow, obviously going into the night, and they're against each other again on Saturday. The draws worked out the other way, so Shadow's now inside Hopes Paddington, which could be key going into that race. He absolutely took off from the second Ben Coolabany Shadow. He really is an enigma. I think Patrick described him as a headless chicken. I think that's what he said he is, and you can see why he's got so much pace and just wanting him to put it right in one of these competitions. But
you'd be hoping he'd mature a little bit and just get his trapping right, because when he hits the ground, it's just awesome. But unfortunately, he doesn't hit the ground often enough or quick enough most occasions. But like, there's no question he has the pace to match anything in the UK, and a few of ours over here we can take on as well, you know. And of course, it was this weekend last year that he was sold out of Tralee. He won his opening round heat of the Juvenile Classic, and behind him on that night was Ballinapoula Ed, about 15 or 16 lengths behind him, and did actually catch the eye, believe it or not. He was in all sorts of traffic, Ballinapoula Ed, and it's funny, the two of them are sort of similar in a sense where they're a bit frustrating, but unbelievably talented. Let's get back into the Irish action now. The Gold Cup, Tommy, on Saturday night, Shelbourne Park. It's a great curtain raiser. We spoke about it last week, should I say. It's one of the very few open 5-2-5-yard competitions in Shelbourne Park, and you know, it's great to have it. We'd like another one later in the year, but as it is, we're looking forward to a wonderful final following two tremendous semi-finals.
We are, and it's I think this year's running is a good example of, even though there's only 25 yards between them, how different a 5-2-5 and a 5-50 competition are. You know, I think Born Warrior highlights that, even though he has the pace for 5-2-5, it's that little bit shorter run up makes some difference. So, it's a great competition now, right? And it's going to be a very good final. I think actually the draw for the final, we'll talk about it in depth after a while, but the draw for the final could not be fairer. You almost put every one of them in the box they should be in, or in the expectation that they'd probably all get a clear run to a large degree. But you know, as I said last week, it's the type of thing, if you ran this competition again in 2 months' time, it would be phenomenal, because you know, they'd all be that bit sharper, and all of a sudden it'd be that bit keener. But look, it sits in well at the moment. It sits in well in the program, so it's kind of hard to mess about with it. You know, the knock-on effects, if you change one big competition like this, the knock-on effect it has right down, even going across the water and everything. It just has a knock-on effect.
I think we've spoken about it before. The calendar's in a good place right now. You know, there aren't too many complaints about the calendar. Like, each year it comes out and you sort of close your eyes and then open them going, I hope they haven't made a mess of this. And it just has a lovely flow to it. You know, we're into this now, the Juvenile Classic, then the Kirby, then the Produce Stakes, then English Derby gets a mention, you know, while the Oaks is going on over here. Then we're into Champion Stakes derbies, you know, the Laurels is thrown in, the Ledger there at the end. Everywhere has their little spot, and they're in a spot where you can focus on them. You know, there's not too much going on at any one time. Yes, there are clashes. There are going to be clashes, but of the real top 5 or 6 competitions, they have their own perfect little spot on the calendar, and it's touch wood. It's going great at present.
Like, bar the Champion Stakes being a 5-2-5, I don't, you know, change it to a 5-2-5. Apart from that, I don't know where you fit in a top class 5-2-5 competition in there without upsetting something. Quite a few things, to be honest about it.
Yeah.
When does the Easter Cup drop in?
That's starting pretty shortly, to be honest. Well, you're talking, you have very little time after the Gold Cup. The Easter Cup final is on the 8th of April. So, it's going to be, it's going to be sort of early to mid March. So what are we at? We're nearly towards the end of February here, a couple of weeks after the final, and it'll be off. Tommy, sorry, before I go to you, Joe, but Tommy, this is the subject we have come back to so many times over the last 2 years. You know what I'm going to say. We're speaking about the fairer sex. Yeah, Ireland at the moment is producing a standard of bitch that has never been seen before. And here we are, 2 semi-finals of the Gold Cup, open to all classic greyhounds, dogs, bitches, pups, old dogs, established dogs, whatever. And 2 bitches pop up and win the 2 semi-finals and win in comfortable style, Tommy. It just highlights where we are in Irish greyhound racing at the moment.
Like when we started to kind of highlight a couple of years ago, when we had the Susie Sapphires and Sing Along Sally and the likes, and we had a pile of really, really top class bitches at the time, you kind of think, okay, this is a little bit of a purple patch, and next year maybe it leaves off a little bit, and then in a couple of years' time, you know, we'll be forgetting about them for a while until something re-emerges. It's just kept going right through the few years. We were never quite able to put our finger on why it might be the case, but it's great for the racing because it brings up the standard. I mean, they're like, it's not like Stream of Sydney is winning the heat there in 28.90 or something like that. She's doing 28.07. Like, there's very few dogs in the country who be able to do that at the moment. So it's not like this. It's not like it's because there's a lull in the standard of the dogs. It's just that the bitches are really, really that good. Like.
Yeah, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And these will all be breeding again. Like, we're seeing the first crop that we were talking about now breeding and producing. You look at the Ballymac Petsy. You know, she has started off at 100 miles an hour, 2 Derby finalists. Another dog from the litter is like something like 8 wins from 12 starts or something like that. The next litter, this Razzle Dazzle Azure, qualified the other day in 28.40 in Shelbourne Park, and better to come. You know, fast bitches produce fast dogs and more fast bitches. And we're in a situation where, Joe, they've very much improved in the UK, but your breeding's going to need to be top notch to match ours.
It would be so intriguing to see many come over for the Oaks, you know, later in the year, because I think you just, as good as we've got over here, we see now the 30th of December when Fabulous Adora come over and won. You had to get a mention, Tom. You had to get a mention at some point. She just had to, didn't she? And then obviously the lots of things to Keena, but even going back to the Gold Cup, we're forgetting that Raftar Molly, she's still a pup. You know, she's an April 21 pup still, and doing this to dogs, it's absolutely frightening what she's doing. And then, as you say, Stream of Sydney doing, 28.07. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, the ladies leading the way at the minute, and it's an intriguing final. And as we say, the bitches, for the pup to do what she is frightening.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about this opening semi-final. Joe, Rathdown Molly, I'm sure you've been watching her from afar. She's just a thoroughly likable performer for Bill Mulholland and Mary Gilbert. I know both Mary and Bill are having the time of their lives with this lady. You know, she when I say she went off the boil briefly, like, it was literally for 2 starts, and here we are. She's back to her very best, 28.45 for the second week running on Saturday night. She beat the Derby winner in the previous round, and the other evening she broke behind Bogger Hunter, outpaced him into the corner, went to the front, and as fast as Bogger Hunter is down the back straight, and he's as quick as anything down the back straight in Shelbourne Park, he never looked like landing a glove on her.
No, he maybe got to a stage between the 3rd and 4th bend where he maybe closed the gap slightly, but off the last bend again, she's pulled away. And the beauty with this bitch is she seems to do it from any box. You know, she's won from 3, she's won from 2, she's won from 1, she qualified from 4. You know, she in the first round, so she's capable of doing it from any box. And if you've got a dog or a bitch that's versatile in what trap they can come from, you've always given yourself a chance. And the draws worked out really well for in the final. As Tommy said, I think if you could place all 6 dogs where they wanted to be. I think all 6 would be happy with that. And you know, we've got 3 really good qualifiers. Let's not forget, obviously Bogger True was in second, and Clona Blue, who has got 5, and that works out well for Born Warrior in the final. But you know, to still be doing 28.45 as a pup, and like you say, she could probably break better. She's done a 2:11 split, and she could probably break better than that. And she might have to, just to go with Streamer Sydney on the run to the corner. And if she turns with her, then we've got a fantastic race. But it was a brilliant performance in the semi-final. And as I said, to do what she's doing at the minute as a puppy, she's still learning, she's still developing, and she's only going to get better and stronger. And yeah, she put in a massive race the other day.
Tommy, the clock is there. 15.89 to the third bend. We always say if you're breaking 16 seconds, you're motoring. Well, if you break 15.90, you're leading 99% of greyhounds, and that was the most impressive part of it. And it didn't look like she was stopping home. It just goes to highlight how fast Streamer Sydney was from that third bend home. Like, she was absolutely hammering home. But Rathda and Molly certainly wasn't stopping. And if she did get to the front in the final, she'd be a very tough nut to crack.
She's fully deserving. You know, Joe says she's still young. You might say at the moment her clock is stuck on mid 2840s. But like, that's not to say it won't be in a month's time. It'd be probably be 28:20 or something. You know what I mean?
Well, she has. I think she has 2 28:27s on her card. So that's there. You know.
Yeah, she has the quality. What I loved about it is a bit like what Joe was talking about. That yes, you could argue that Bogger Hunter was kind of was thinking about it. And what I mean by thinking about it is didn't know whether to go inside or outside down to the third bend, because he was making that bit of ground, and he was kind of looking at it going, okay, there's not a lot of space here. Do I go out there? I wanted to kind of go inside, saw the space wasn't there. You can see it in that the dog is kind of just is hesitating slightly, just purely based on space. Not because he's not being genuine about it.
Just moments of indecisiveness,
That's it, because I think naturally he wanted to go inside, and then saw that gap close, and then decided, I have to go outside. And like when you're doing fast times like 28:45, it's nearly impossible to make up that lost ground if you hesitate slightly, and especially if you give some like a bitch like Rather and Molly, who ran hard from the last bend. And as we talked about last week too, she tracks it nicely and everything. She doesn't give away an awful lot. Bogger Hunter ran well, but by God, when she got in front of Rather and Molly, she was just so determined. She runs a lovely racing line as well. What she does, what I mean by that is she forces the chasers to do something that maybe they don't want to do, or something that's a little bit more difficult. You know, she doesn't say, here, come on, come up the inside here if you want, and you can slip through. She runs a lovely racing line. And if you get in front and you do that, you're going to be very hard to beat. So she will improve, as we say. So look, she's a genuine player in the final, even though it's a hot final. She's a smashing bitch for the future.
You say about forcing others to make mistakes. I know we talk about it in kilos over here, but she's a good old size as well. You know, she's 30 kilos, so she's a good old size, and she's not going to let a dog get inside and she doesn't want to. She's going to drive the bend, and as she says, she's got enough about her and muscle and power to kind of force her way to the front still and be able to hold a pitch there.
Yeah, she like while the clock the other night wasn't as fast as our previous clocks, there's a touch more sort of professionalism about it. There's a bit more. She's running with real purpose. She knows exactly what she's at now. You know what I mean? There's no greenness anymore. She just bang, get to that corner as quick as you can, and just stay there. As you said, true racing line. Just so much to like about her, and it's lovely to see a flying brindle. You know,
and let's not forget, she's a puppy. She's done all these runs all the way through the winter.
Yeah,
she hasn't even had a spring or a summer yet on a better track and fast to go. So we're saying that she's clocked a couple of sub 28:30s and late 28:20s, and she's done all of this through the winter. So she's still got a whole summer, a first summer to go through racing. So yeah, she could be absolutely anything going forward.
No real break in her card, which suggests she hasn't come in season. It'd be interesting to see if she does come in season after this competition, perhaps, you know, to get her back for the Oaks. You know, it's something you mind. Perhaps she's suppressed. I'm not sure, but whatever. She'll be in the final of the Gold Cup, and she's there with a live chance. Bogger Hunter was in second. I don't think this was his best run, Tommy. You mentioned it there, there was that just moment of indecisiveness in around the third and fourth bends. But I didn't. I was expecting more from him down the back straight. Now I must say, I think he is capable of better, and I'm sure Ian is tuning him up for a big run in the final. Very, very fast greyhound, no question about it. Back in third, Clona Blue came from out of the clouds to grab third spot. Tommy, I've touched upon it a couple of times, and I don't want to be picking on the dog, but why was Kilgraney Sydney the 6-4 favourite again? I know he's in trap one, but I just can't quite understand it. In this 5 to 5 yard contest, he's just really not sharp enough to match them early. That's my issue.
Yeah, but we know he can break 28 seconds. We know he's got incredible ability. If somebody said to you on Saturday afternoon before this race went on that the race will be won in 28:45, you say, well, geez, that'll increase the chances of Kilgraney Sydney winning it because, okay, he might be caught for a little bit of toe early, but he's got exceptional ability and he'll do that sort of time in his sleep. And he would, in general terms. He was like very, very slightly unlucky. Clonedon Flash seemed to just come across him going into the bend, got forced to check, had to go for a gap between two greyhounds out of the second bend, showed pace down the back. I'd be hard to say. I'd be slightly disappointed, very, very slightly disappointed because that he didn't qualify from that position because of the talent he has. But Clona Blue is a really powerful finisher, so I suppose slightly unlucky. I wouldn't like to overplay it. I understand what you're saying, Ian. 6-4, and every week he seems to be a sharp price. It's just down to I think it was a difficult looking heat.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there was a 6-4 chance in it. I did think Kilgraney Sydney would go off favourite. I wasn't sure it was going to be 6-4 or whatever, just on the basis of his raw ability. Just a thing on Bogger Hunter, you said you were slightly disappointed him down the back. What section would he have had to do to lead back down Molly? 15 what, like? Do you know what I mean?
No. Look, obviously he's not picking up Molly from where he was off the second bend, but I thought he'd be right on her tail at the third bend. Now I mean right on it because like he's as good. He's genuinely he's probably 2 lengths better than most dogs down the back straight. And I mean, when I talk about most dogs, I mean most dogs he's going to be taking on the likes of these competitions. That's where he does all his running because he is a bit of a DSDS dog, as I call him. Doesn't start, doesn't stay. That's sort of pigeonholing him a bit because obviously he does start. He went up well the other evening. He just couldn't match Rathdown Molly, and he does stay. He keeps going, but he's not a dog where he's not going to blitz dogs to the corner, and he's not going to come from behind many off the final bend. He actually doesn't find an awful lot up the home straight. It's down the back where he does his running.
That might be the most frustrating type of dog. Because the hardest place to win your race is in the middle of it. Because if you have to pass dogs and do things, it's the worst place. Yeah, it is. It's the most difficult part because you're coming out of one bend and into another, and you have to make that move very quickly in that straight and get by and pick us up. So like it's very frustrating because he has immense ability. So yeah, he's
interesting to see if he goes across the water because he'd definitely be one of the best across the water. You know, what do you think, Joe?
Sorry, Joe.
No comment.
There were our 3 qualifiers: Rathdown Molly, Bogger Hunter, Clona Blue. Great to see Kevin Losty, Tommy, with a runner in a big final again. You know, Kevin's been around a long time. I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but I remember back in Kevin's dog a long, long time ago. He's had it a long time. He's had some very fast greyhounds. And Clona Blue had a mark on his card early in his career, owned now by the Give Him a Chance syndicate. You can see why he's named. They were named that. Tell you what, he's been running very hard in recent times, and anything he achieves over 5.25 yards, to use the cliche, is a bonus because he is a dog that wants that bit further these days.
He is. I mean, look, just look at his last 7 races. Actually, excluding the other night because the section is nothing, but like his sectional positions: 4th, 5th, 6th, 3rd, 4th. You know, that leaves you under pressure. But he has some ability. Like as I said to you, I wouldn't like to be making too many excuses for Kilgraney Sydney, but the fact that he was able to pick him up off the last bend and beat him a length to the line, is a fair performance. Now look, he's got it all to do in the final. It's not inconceivable that actually the makeup of the final will work in his favour somewhat, but it is good to see him in a final. And he brings, you know, if we had 6 early paces, we'd kind of get bored of the final very quickly because he'd be saying, well, Pot will get around the front, that's probably over. But he brings a different aspect to the final, which is important as well. So he's going to be a rank outsider, but it's not inconceivable that he'd be a player in it.
The one line of form that stands out in this card is that November 12th run. over 575 yards, got loose early, 30.81 for the 575. It's a massive run. Joe, if he was in the UK, he's the type of dog you'd love to see over the 515 around Hove, and then the 500 around Nottingham. He'd be made for those long run up, and you really need to be powerful, and he'd absolutely tick those boxes.
So are we going to see him at Toaster?
I can't imagine so.
Completely different track. And like you say, he's going to be the outsider. There's a difference of opinion between the two firms that have priced up. I think Paddy's have gone 12s, Ballsports have gone 25 to 1. So he's going to be the outsider. And look, any mistakes from the leading pack, and he's going to detach himself early, you'd imagine. He's got Ball Murray on his outside who is going to lead him anyway. So he's going to get a nice run into the race. He should get a clear run at the end of the day. And if there are any mistakes, then he's going to be finishing better than anything in the race. So
yeah, I think I'd be closer to the 25 to 1 than the 12s. Yeah. He's going to have a lot of dogs to pass, and they're not all going to find trouble. Something's going to get loose and do 28.40. And as you said, and Tommy has said, you don't come from behind that sort of run.
No.
Yeah.
So
let's go on to the second semi-final, because certainly wasn't one in 28.40. She's doing, what was it, 15.92, I think it was, the third bend. I'll have to check that out. I didn't write it down, but streamers, 15.92 to the third bend, Tommy, but she comes home in 12 excuse me, 12.15, is that right? Yeah, she's doing 28.07. That's serious racing, Tommy. She's a very, very fast lady. The few nights that were on I was going to say Sky, that were on Racing Post Greyhound television last year, the firms priced up each of those races. She was on a couple of the undercards, always came in for support. There was always knowledge in the kennel that this lady had supreme ability, and here we are, and she really does look a proper one.
She definitely is. I think I saw your report on it yesterday, saying that she kind of consistent with her section as a 208 or something around about that sort of whatever.
Yeah, that's her last 3 starts. She's done
3 races on the spin. Yeah.
Yeah, 208. Like you kind of don't expect that to lead, full open 525s around Shelbourne Park. Now, obviously the sections do change depending on the way the track is running and whatever else, and different times of year, I suppose. But once she led, this is all over, because I don't have her down as an electric early pacer. Yes, she's consistent, but I don't have her down as being one of these flying starters. Now, the only thing is, I think that was only her second ever run out of Trap 1, was it? I hope it was, because
did she?
Pretty sure
she ran. We looked at it last week. She was beaten by a short head in the night of the Winter Racing Festival. That was that was the night she stepped out from Trap 1. She took a bump. Isn't that right, Tommy? We were talking about it last week.
Yeah, like she was, I suppose she was entitled to improve a little bit from being back in there again, or depending on whether it suited her, of course. But she's this is a huge performance. It's also a huge performance by Disco Pants. Let's be honest, that was massive, a huge effort in defeat. Massive effort in defeat. I mean, Disco Pants is holding Bornmeyer and actually forcing Bornmeyer to do what we talked about with Bogger Hunter a minute ago, in terms of not having a clue really where to go, if you know what I mean, down to the third bend, because even though he's a seed, he's still not in the most natural of wide seeds, even though he does swing wide off the last bend. He's like any dog. They don't want to track too wide on the bends anyway. So I think she, like, Disco Pants ran a huge race. So I'd upgrade. even though it's a 28 or 7, it doesn't take an awful lot of upgrading really. I'd even upgrade it from even that. I think it was a phenomenal performance. Probably, I can understand. And we'll talk. No, we'll wait and talk about the final in a while. But I think this is just a thoroughly professional performance, and the fact that she's in one in the final is gives the potential for maybe a sub 28 second run if she continues in the vein of form she's in.
Yeah. I just took a glance there. Jetstream Proof. I thought I recognized the name, but I didn't. I never saw her race. She only ran twice. It's her first litter, and here we are, Stream of Sydney in the final of a Gold Cup. Joe, we were lucky enough to get a tour of Pat Buckley's the day before the road show, or the day of the road show down in Limerick. He wasn't shy about telling us how much he thought of this lady.
Yeah, she's special, and for me, look, the sectional consistency is frightening. It's what she does from the winning line to the bend that really, there was a little bit of coming together. The two dog in the race kind of took a fall on Saturday. It's not what she does from the boxes; it's literally what she does from the winning line. She just powers us out to the bend, and as we know, the Trap 1 over that 525 it's got to be worth a couple of lengths, especially if you're a break like that. We're talking about Kilgraney Sydney. He looks like he's probably better drawn away from it, from one over that. And she looks like she's just tailor-made for trap one round here. And she holds a nice line to the corner. And as you said, we had a tour around the place, and you kind of, there's that many that he goes, this will be special, this will be special.
Yeah.
You kind of lose track of what's what, but then you look back at the results and you look at them and you go, I remember her. And I spoke to Pat yesterday, and he was very buoyant. He said she's in great order. Obviously, Emma was on the show yesterday, and she was delighted with what she saw Saturday night. So yeah, she's gonna be a worthy favourite. But look, we've got an Irish Derby champion in there, so it's not going to be as straightforward as we think.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not going to be straightforward. But I echo your claims. It was so professional. You know, I genuinely thought she had little chance of leading in the contest, but I thought she turned close to them, you know, with the likes of a Galloping Sydney and a Born Warrior in the race, and even a Check for Sir and Disco Pants. I thought there was no way she could possibly lead into the back straight. So when she did lead into the back straight, I think I said in commentary that Powerhouse is out in front of you. You know, I didn't go as far as to say this is over, because Disco Pants really did put it up to her in second spot. Disco Pants, Joe, this was a dog that they actually, again, similar to Stream of Sydney, he appeared in Shelbourne Park a couple of times last year and came in for very strong support. So they knew they had something. He was trained by Graham Holland at the time, now trained by Michael Daly for John Breen and Conor Healy. He's a dog that we saw during the Kingdom Derby in Tralee. This was a different greyhound to the one we saw last year. He'd really grown up, matured, doing everything right. He starts, he stays. And we saw the other night that his attitude was exemplary in defeat. He just ran his heart out. A son of Kinloch Bray, we always say that they need a little bit of time. This fellow has developed into a proper greyhound. I, for one, can't wait to see him over 550 yards later in the year.
Yeah, we're talking about the dog. He's improved no end, but we also forget he's been in with the best of the best, really, since he started. You go back to his runs in at Shelbourne last year. There's plenty of form lines behind the likes of Ballon Bowler Red, Mustang Jet, you know, Droopy's nice one, Callaway Masters. So he's been in with the absolute best, and the runs at Tralee were special. 28-37. You know, I know he got knocked out in the semi-final again behind Ballymac Finn, but he's come back to a place now. He beat Stream of Sydney on the 27th on the final card, and you know, since he's been back to Shelbourne, he managed to win in the heats. But he's been behind two special dogs, Chat for Sir and Stream of Sydney in the quarters and semi-finals. So he ran a big race in beyond. You're doing 28-21 in defeat. You know, you've still gone, what is it, 3 lengths quicker than the first semi-final, and you've been beat. So, you know, it's a fantastic running behind. And again, he's got a nice draw to work from in the final.
Yeah, it's 3.5 Irish lengths. It's 3 lengths in England.
Different. Yeah, over 8 and 7.
Well, our dogs are just that little bit faster, so they cover the ground a bit quicker. You know, we have 7 spots for a length. You have 8 spots for a length. Tommy, listen, it's understandable. It's understandable. Tommy Disco Pants, he'll be 3 years of age in 8 days' time. But this is a dog that, like, this is a dog that has landed now. Like, he's progressed, and boom, all of a sudden he's a proper greyhound. And I think 550 yards will be the making of him again.
But like he won a heat of the Fair Warrior as well last year. Like he beat he has form where he's beaten Stream of Sydney. As Joe said, he's been in against all the top greyhounds. Like, I love the performance, because when you, like, it's very easy to give up when a dog in front is nearly breaking your heart by doing a big clock, and kind of you get in front of doing everything right. And I actually just thought he really battled to keep it to 2 lengths. Like, you could easily fade away there and be beaten 4 or 5 and say, geez, he ran well. Like, but he like, to keep him to 2 lengths is in my opinion, you lose those by being behind a greyhound anyway. You lose a couple of lengths by the way you have to track, or the way you have to think about what you're doing instead of just running hard after the lure. So I think it's a huge performance, and he has a decent draw in the final as well. So like, it's yeah, I don't want to go on saying they're all players, because it's like I don't make it as wide open as that quite, maybe, but I love the performance.
Yeah, it has to be said. I don't know how close he would have turned had, you know, Galloping Sydney not sort of gone down on his nose. He didn't quite get knocked over. He steadied himself quickly. Unfortunate the way he went out. He'd been such a star in the early rounds, and I'm sure there'll be a prize for him later in the year. A Check for Sir was edging across at the point, and he sort of bumped with Galloping Sydney, and as a result, Disco Pants got to second spot on the corner. He may not have turned second had they kept a straight line into the bend, but that's racing. In the final, he's in trap 4. He's Bogger Hunter, Rathdown Molly, and Stream of Sydney on his inside. So he'll need to be doing things right at boxes. But when you have the engine, Tommy, as you say, you have to be considered a player. He will need to come through the bars.
Like if you just watched down to the third bend, this is a great example of the way Greyhounds track, and particularly if there's something in front of him, he kind of nearly moves out a bit just to kind of give himself a line into it. Whereas other dogs will run it, Rathdown Molly will run it really tight and run it really a great racing line. Some dogs will do a Disco Pants to just kind of edge out to try run it that bit little, just slightly differently. You're not giving away a huge amount or anything like that. Like, yeah, he'll have to do everything right, but like there's not. It's not inconsiderable either that there might be a little bit of bumping or a little bit of shorter room. If you talked about the two sections, the two bitches are 1589 and 1592, and they're drawn right beside each other. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. 5-1 Paddy's, 8-1 Boyle Sports.
Yeah,
be about right.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I'd like to be laying 8s. I'd say somewhere in the middle. Sort of 6-13 to 2. I don't think I'd like to be laying. I don't think I'd like to be laying the 7 either. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if 5 is very short. I certainly, if they're both 5-1, I wouldn't even be considering it at all. Yeah, but like you think you've got Bogger Hunter in 3. Like there's potential to lead Bogger Hunter. Tricky enough though. It's not a certainty.
No, it's an intriguing contest. We haven't even mentioned the Derby winner. Born Warrior was back in 3rd. By his standards, this was a tardy start. He was probably 5th touching the ground, raced up the outside. He's challenging Disco Pants in the corner. Again, edging in on that bend, Tommy takes the bump from Disco Pants and he's 3rd down the back straight, swinging wide. And his goose was cooked at that stage. We know how fast the front 2 are coming home. And Born Warrior, while he's a length and a half off Disco Pants at the 3rd bend, he finishes 6 lengths behind him at the line. That's understandable. He's had the 2 quick runs back, and this was his 3rd run back. Maybe a touch of bounce factor about it. Didn't get the lead. Is swinging off that last bend. That's where he's thrown away a length or 2. So I wouldn't be too hung up by the fact that he's beaten 8 lengths. He's still doing 28.63. We know with the fast start, if he banged out the 28.15, the final, it would be no surprise to anyone.
Well, if you say you wouldn't be too concerned that he was beaten 8 lengths, and I'm not wildly concerned about it, but had he been beaten 4, 2 and 2, I would have said he was a certainty in the final next weekend. I would have said I would have loved everything about it, but he was weak from the last bend home, and maybe 3 quick runs, having not run since the Derby final, then to have the 3 quick runs, maybe. Look at, as I said last week, I'm quite happy where he is now, because I think if he'd been doing 28.07, from the start of this competition, I don't think we'd be seeing him in September. September. I don't think so, because there's only so many times you can go to the well with the dogs of that ability, and so I'm not unhappy where he is. I was obviously a little bit disappointed that he faded quite significantly from the last bend, which he probably shouldn't have. But yes, so much went wrong early in the race in terms of missing the kick completely. He's chasing down, dogs that are pretty much a clear run into the turn, and we're able to do their running, and they're serious greyhounds that are in front of him. But just down to the 3rd bend, he's probably maybe that 4 lengths that I was talking about. He's maybe that 4 lengths off the leader, and a couple behind Disco Pants. But it just would be slightly concerned. As I said, if you'd beaten 4 lengths, I'd say he's a certainty, or he's a real puzzle for the bookmakers now to price. A real puzzle, because do you take it that? Yeah, he looked like that was a tired effort, and he just after the 3 quick runs, and it just maybe just leaving its mark, or do you say, my God, hey, that's the Derby winner, and this is
if you hadn't if you had just seen him during this competition, you only priced him on the merits of this competition, didn't know he was a Derby champion, or he wasn't a Derby champion, he'd be 9-2, 5-1 in the final.
Correct. Exactly right. He'd be something closer to that anyway, definitely, because you'd be saying, well, okay, how is he going to lead? He can. Which is the funny thing, but you'd be saying you just be saying based on the 3 runs.
If he was 3 clear into the back straight, it would be no surprise to any man, woman, or child.
Well, no, because we know how good he is. But if if you only took this competition in isolation, you'd say he's around about 4-1, 92 chance, and would I back him? My chances, just in case he gets a run, there might be a bit of bumping inside, and take a chance on him. You wouldn't be confident, but we know how good he is. So he's a real puzzle for bookies because obviously you have to balance the percentages. Does that mean you're giving away something by having Stream of Sydney 13-8, or is it 6-4, 13-8? Stream of Sydney? Are you giving away too much? Should she be shorter based on what he is? It's trying to find that balance. I think because he's a Derby winner and because we know how good he is, that people will back him anyway. So you've got that bit of an advantage if you are setting the prices. So you're going to lay him anyway to some degree. I dare say Ted will take a chance on Saturday night.
Yeah, I did a tissue myself yesterday evening. I went 2-1 each of two, Stream of Sydney and Born Warrior. Now, as you say, Ted may well take a chance. He may well go a 5-2 to bottom. But I wouldn't be surprised if Stream of Sydney was closer to 2-1 mark than 6-4 now, to be honest.
I think there'll be plenty of takers if she is.
Yeah, perhaps. I thought Rathdown Molly was a touch big. I sort of put her in around 7-2 because there is a chance she leads around that corner. And, if she, let's say she does her 28-27, you're not coming around her. You're not coming around her and doing that run.
This goes exactly back to what I was saying earlier on. She runs a lovely line. So if she gets a full length in front of at the bend, it's going to take a serious performance to come by her. Yes, like Stream of Sydney has the ability, but you don't just have to have the ability. You need to be able to pick up a couple of lengths that you're going to lose by having to track around her or wait for the last. I don't even know where she leaves the gap. Maybe very, very. I mean, I'm talking about very slight off the last bend. She runs a great line, so you nearly want to be hugging the rail completely to try to get a chance to go up inside her going to the line. So I mean, if she gets a length in front of Rathdown Molly, like. Even though like on the clock you think that she need to find something, I think she'd be hard to catch her. I'm just wondering, will she get that length?
Well, she might. Let's get into the final anyway. Stream of Sydney's in 1, Rathdown Molly's in 2, Bogger Hunter 3, and then we have a middle seed Disco Pants in 4. 2 wide seeds, Clona Blue and Born Warrior. I want to touch upon it that we now spread the seeds. We now spread the seeds in Irish Greyhound racing. It's something they've been doing in the UK for quite some time. It's making a difference, Tommy. We've noticed that now. Here's a big final, 3 seeds in it. How often have we seen 5 insides and maybe 1 wide thrown in there just on the strength of draws through the competition? But here we are. We've got 3 inside seeds, a middle and 2 wides. Near ideal.
Be like it shouldn't even be a question. I mean, a racing manager worth of salt should be able to, his or her salt should be able to seed them properly. I know you'll have aggro, my dog's not a middle, my dog's not a wide. You'd have the usual kind of rubbish, but like you're there to make the race as clean as possible and to give every dog as much a chance as you possibly can. So, I mean, a racing manager with experience should be able to do that. So there should be a spread of seeds all along. We have tracks where you say, oh, you can't win from trap 6. So nobody wants to be a wide seed, even if they are a wide seed. Do you know what I mean? So that affects the racing too. Like it's not ideal. I don't think you should have a choice. I mean, I don't think the racing manager is going to be bad enough that they're going to want to seed you wrong on purpose to kind of thwart your chance or any of that sort of rubbish. So, like it's great to see it like that, and that's why I said I think it looks a really fair final. Yeah, Bogger Hunter might edge in very slightly, but that's really he normally be anyway, somewhat central. Rathdown Molly was, she'll go up perfectly well straight and run a great line. Stream of Sydney is probably, she did edge out on the Winter Festival.
But went up pretty straight the other night.
Yeah, actually, exactly. Because I actually think I said in my preview, thought there was a chance that she might step out a little bit. I think she didn't. She ran a great line, and then you have the 2 wide season. Clona Blue actually being a slow starter is a benefit to Disco Pants, who should get a great run because Bogger Hunter might edge in slightly. Born Warrior will edge in at the bend, but he'd be in front of Clona Blue. He'd probably be in front of Disco Pants as well. It has the makings of a very clean final. Okay, the 2 bitches inside in 1 and 2, Stream of Sydney and Rathdown Molly. More so the fact that they're so closely matched in early sectionals. And I mean, what I mean by early is all the way to the almost third bend sectional. I mean, in that point of the race, they're very tightly matched. So that's where the potential there might be a little bit of bumping, but that would mean that Stream of Sydney has to produce her best start to kind of match Rathdown Molly, to be honest.
Joe, what were your initial thoughts when you took a look at it?
It looks an ideal draw for all. We're talking about Born Warrior and Tommy going back to, if he was doing 28-10 now, you'd probably be concerned because there wouldn't be any more to give. He's found his way through to the final without really setting any fireworks off. And there's going to be more to come from him. He's got an ideal draw with Clone Duke inside him, so he just needs to come away, and he's going to have all the room he wants to do whatever he wants. But I'd have to be inside just purely on what I've seen from Streamer Sydney. And as I said, it's not what she does from the boxes; it's from the first bend from the winning line, to the bend. She just seems to drive that bend so well, and it'd be some buckle, her and two, Raftar, Molly, and six managed to turn first, second, third, and that you just say the level coming out of the second bend. You've got some race from there then into the third to see what's going to be a through going into that third bend, and it's an intriguing final. We've got two bitches that say the head of the market, two of the front three. You've got a Derby winner in there just from 6 months ago. You've got enigmas in terms of Clone and Blue, where there's any trouble. Bogger Hunter, Disco Pants, who we mentioned, who can perform much better than probably what we have seen so far. But their hearts have been broken. These are proper dogs. They've had their hearts broken by two really good bitches in the semi-finals. So I'd have to sway with Streamer Sydney. Just to go through the betting here with Ball Sports, they've got 6-4 Streamer Sydney, 4-1 Raftar Molly, 6-1 Bogger Hunter, 8-1 Disco Pants, 25-1 Clone the Blue, and 2-1 Born Warrior. Similar with Paddy's, 13-8 Streamer Sydney, 2-1 Born Warrior, 9-2 Raftar Molly, 5-1 Disco Pants, 6-1 Bogger Hunter, and 12-1 Clone the Blue.
Yeah. Listen, the betting has its structure, and they've probably found the right favourite, second favourite, third favourite, and all the way through. There's no question Clone Blue will be the outsider of the party. Put your finger on it, Joe. What do you think will win it?
I'll be with Streamer Sydney purely on the draw. I think that track one.
You're a Streamer Sydney because Buckley be watching this. To be on the phone.
He will be watching. He will be watching. But the way she ran, she was so impressive the other day. As you said, from the third bend onwards as well, she pulled clear to win really well. Just with that draw as well in track. If they were drawn the other way around, I'd be with Born Warrior. If her and Raftar Molly were drawn the other way around, I'd be with Born Warrior. With her being in one, I'm going to be with her. I think that she could use that to her advantage, and it's a cracking final. I can't wait to watch it.
Tommy?
Yeah, look, if you asked a month ago and you said that would be the final, if a month ago you gave me that final, you'd say Born Warrior was an absolute penalty kick, 3's on chance, But we have the beauty of the semi-final performance, which kind of tempers things a little bit. He can pop out and he can win, but I don't think we know for certain what he'll do. Whereas we have a fair idea of what Streamer Sydney will do. You have a fair idea of what I wouldn't put anybody off taking a chance on Raftar Molly at a price, right? That's fine. But I think Streamer Sydney just has a bit of real quality, real top quality. And it's going to make it hard to beat. I'm not in a rush to back at 13-8 or 6-4. I'm not in a rush to back at the price. I'd be happy to kind of watch the race, but I think she's the most likely winner. But if, as you said, if Born Warrior pops out, there'd be no surprise if it'll be funny. We'll be laughing at ourselves next week if Born Warrior pops out and leads around by 2 lengths and goes on to win doing 28 seconds. We'll be laughing at ourselves and be saying, well, we knew we could do it. we just weren't sure it was going to happen. So,
Tommy, do the 525 boxes maybe catch him out?
They do.
With the 550, he's got that massive run to the corner.
He was trapping a lot better, though, towards back in the Derby. It's worth pointing out that in his prep trial for this competition, he charged the traps quite badly. To a point where he was sort of a bit shook for a few days. They gave him an extra week where we're going to give him another trial. They decided not to, just give him a few days extra. Obviously, the dog's in perfect working order now. He's in great picking himself. But, those things, they just do leave that little mark now. As it is, he went up better in the previous 2 rounds than he did on Saturday night. He did 2:14 on Saturday night, missed the kick, and yet he's still challenging for second spot on the corner, right on the heels of Streamer Sydney. If he does a 2:06, he could easily lead him into the back straight. And given the momentum that he carries around that second bend, could certainly find himself 2.5 lengths clear at halfway. I'm going to side with Born Warrior for all the reasons we've gave. But again, my goose could be cooked after 5 strides. And I really do see strong claims for the 2 bitches. I think the remainder need that little bit of luck. They need things to go their own way. While it's in the lap of Born Warrior, Streamer Sydney, and Raftar and Molly. Like they sort of hold their own destiny in their hands. Like if they do things right from the draw, all 3 could just go out and claim it from the front. Whereas I think Bogger Hunt, Disco Pants, and Clone of Blue need something to happen to the others for them to win.
If Born Warrior leads a length at the first bend, right, from Stream of Sydney, is the race over?
I think if he leads a length at the first bend, I think he carries more momentum than most greyhounds around that second bend. He really slingshots into the back. And I think if he leads a length on the opening corner, I think he'll probably be 3 clear of halfway. And I think that'll be enough.
How far would he win by? What would the distance be?
Oh, it could be 3 parts of a length, the finish. Okay, remember this now, right? Born Warrior goes 3 clear, holds on by 3 parts of a length in 28.19. Okay,
if it happens, just
retire.
Listen,
you didn't ask for the prediction, but you're getting this, all right?
Joe, same question to you. If he's a length clear at the first bend, does he win?
On Saturday, yes. Different ball game coming into a final. They've had another week with him.
Listen, the one thing we know from all these greyhounds is they have the right people at the end of the lead. But like, there's nothing like all dogs will be there, be able to run on their merits. Like Jennifer O'Donnell, like she came out training greyhounds. Do you know what I mean? Like it's in her blood. She's already a Derby winning trainer, and I can promise you one thing: she'll have plenty more classics before she's done. Let's get on to Tralee. Firstly, best of luck to all 6 connections in the Paddy Kehoe Suspended Ceilings Gold Cup. And again, thanks to our sponsor, Paddy Kehoe. Best of luck in Cheltenham with his fantastic race mare. Tommy, what's her name again? Princess Zoe, isn't it? Yeah. Moving on, because there was a little bit to report down at Tralee with the opening round of the Greyhound Pet World Juvenile Classic. Tommy, we're both racing to get her name out. There was obviously 2 there were 7 very, very, very good winners. 2 in particular were sensational, but the one that caught both our eye was Droopy's One Stop in Defeat. She looks an absolute monster. But this is another juvenile classic. The one thing I'm going to take out of the opening round was I think this Liam Dowling fella has a bit of a future in the game.
He's not too bad.
I'll tell you what, if I was him now, I'd stick to the dogs. You know.
Look. The only little thing, okay, we want to talk about Droopy's One Stop, but that would be unfair to Manny McWalt because.
Listen, Tommy, he looks an absolute machine.
He did 28-12, and that's his first run. So there's every chance that he's going to improve on it. He's a big 77-pound dog. He's a great size of a dog. He's to do that first time out, to be able to do it. He's a mid to late June pup, I think, is he? He's seriously fast. Yeah, and sometimes right. Sometimes it can be over exaggerated when something shows pace in behind because the gaps have opened up, because all of a sudden it's not a 6-dog race, it's a 5-dog race because Ballymacwalt is gone and the race is almost over. So it can be exaggerated slightly, but I think we're right. I think we're right in terms of Droopy's One Stop that it was a phenomenal pace in defeat, phenomenal pace. It would be interesting to see does she possess any early pace. She missed a kick the other night, and maybe she'll always do that or whatever else. I don't know. But I wouldn't like to take too much from the winner, but I think it's a sign that we have yet another brilliant renewal, because obviously you had another dog later on in the heats doing 28-12. That
Rye-Hope Beach, a half brother to Skywalker Barry.
Skywalker Barry, yeah.
So
like that's another brilliant.
And he didn't fly out or anything like it. You know, showed great early speed to get there and just galloped him into the ground for Michael O'Donovan. Alison Banderack, of course, owns him. Alison and Michael Banderack had the brilliant dog last year. Was it 2 years ago now? Dramana Bucco, the dog that set sort of the world on fire effectively in his first 3 or 4 starts, and sadly his career stopped short. It'd be great to see Michael and Alison with a good one again, and they certainly have one in Rye-Hope Beach.
Oh, I think they're definitely doing. But when you add in the likes of Good Maestro as well and other winners it's just going to be a superb competition. Yeah, we know with this competition that because they're so inexperienced, like you could miss a kick next week and be out of the competition and all that sort of crack, or there could be dogs sold, or it could be any reasons why there might be softer tasks next week than there were in the first round. But it looks every bit up to as good as it has been in recent years.
I want to mention a couple of things. A couple of young sires obviously came to the fore. Ballymac Cashout, we know how exceptionally fast he was in his short racing career. He's obviously the sire of Ballymac Walt, out of Ballymac Diva, who had a less than a less than impressive sort of racing career, but she's bred in the purple. She's a half sister to Ballymac Cooper. Obviously, Ballymac Walt looks the real deal for the pair. Ballymac Cashout, Ballymac Diva, another one from the litter. Billericay Joe has already shown real promise around Waterford. So keep an eye on Ballymac Cashout. The early signs are very good. And Droopy's one stop. Broadstrand Bono was effectively the first of the Droopy Sydneys to go to stud. He sort of after getting the jump on a few of his, of his progeny. He was a very talented greyhound. Won the Juvenile Derby. Things went wrong before he really got a chance to fully establish himself in his second career or his second season, Tommy. But he's made a very bright start also to his stud career.
Yeah, look. Well, actually, we have. I don't think we have any fear at the moment in terms of what's coming through, in terms of the breeding side of things. Ian. Yeah, there's not much more to say about it. Then it's just we've talked about it quite a bit over the last year, how we're going through such a great spell in terms of quality of greyhounds, and to do that, not only do you need the trainers and to be able to get the best out of it, but you also need the top bitches and the top kind of stud dogs involved. So I think we're just getting at the culmination of that right now. Like we're probably, I wouldn't like to think we're at the very top of the circle at the moment, top of the cycle at the moment, but we're in great shape, as I say, in terms of just overall in breeding numbers. The only thing I would say is, I think most of the early start of today's program, we were trying to send dogs across the water there for fun. And Joe's going to be inundated with them. I'd love to see him across the water. He beat the ones.
We've got our puppy derby coming up at Monmore. That's always our yardstick in terms of going forward. We always get, it's always a fantastic competition. Would this competition be the same for you guys, the juvenile?
Well, listen,
you've got the Kirby coming up as well, of course.
It started in 2007, and the first few years, some nice dogs came out of it. The winners never really went on to all that much in the early years. The last 3 or 4 years, Tommy, have just gone stratospheric, haven't they? There's dogs finishing 5th and 6th in this opening round, Joe, that could go on to win classics. Dearjet Sydney was in this. I think Law Hill Blake ran in the opening round. These are dogs went on to win English Derby, Irish Derby. Last year, obviously, Balnabula Ed, Coulivanny Shadow, dogs like that. Coulivanny Hoffa, who did a 17:04 the other night at Tralee in a sprint, suggesting he'll be back shortly, and he could be better than ever. I think he's now gone clear favourite for the Irish Greyhound Derby with the sponsors at around 14-1. So yeah, I can't wait to see Coulivanny Hoffa. I assume the Easter Cup will be the target for him, but dogs like that are now coming out of it. It's not a case of now 1 or 2 dogs emerge from the Juvenile Classic. It's now a case of a dozen dogs emerge from the Juvenile Classic, and all evidence would suggest that this year is going to be no different. There's probably a dozen coming from Liam Dowlings at this stage, to be honest.
Yeah, but I wouldn't underestimate the tweaking of the program that has led to this. I think that's
we now have stepping stones in the river. The first stepping stone is Juvenile Classic, Kirby, if you want Produce Stakes or English Derby.
Yeah.
And then you're looking towards the end of the year.
This is brilliant experience before the Kirby. This is a brilliant experience to pick up before the Kirby. Yes, you might be meeting greyhounds down there who have been running for a few months and probably running the top grade in Shelbourne Park late last year and whatever else. So it gets difficult. So you pick up valuable experience here. And if you're entering in this competition, you think a fair amount of your greyhound, whether it finishes first or last in the first round each, you've thought it's done something, or you felt it could do something quite special. So it's great to pick up the experience here and know, and then it gives it perfect time before you go to the Kirby. So it's actually, I think the program, we shouldn't underestimate how, like, a lot of work has gone into that over the years, and to get that finally to get it sitting what feels like right is hugely important. So now, instead of saying, yeah, I'll get my dog out and get a couple of spins around Shelbourne or one around Limerick, and then I'll go to the Kirby. You come here to a big competition, which is a lot of money involved. You're going to be taking on really good dogs. You have a good idea of whether it's worth your while going to the Kirby after this. So it is a perfect stepping stone. It's now let's save my pup for this and go straight to the Kirby.
Yeah, let's take a look. I'm just going to run through the heats in particular. The first heat was won by Ballymac Marino, a son of Vulturi for Liam Dowling, owned by the Met in the Halfway Syndicate. They've owned some good dogs in the past. They owned the dog, it was a College Paradise that won the Winter Racing Festival 575-600. They have a nice type here in Ballymac Marino. Took a bump on the corner, took a when he's down as balked in the corner, emerged a good winner by 10.5 lengths in 28.48. I thought the dog in second, the Tartan Shamrock, caught the eye. I thought he showed loads of pace for Liam O'Callaghan. Great to see Liam with a potentially very good one. Yes, he's beaten 10.5 lengths, but you can be assured he's certainly lost a good chunk of that in running. The second heat was won by the aforementioned Ballymac Walt, who looks just a wonderful greyhound. He looks like a machine. And I know we shouldn't have started with Droopy's one stop, but she was just so eye-catching in defeat. But, reversing form of Ballymac Walt is no guarantee at any point in her career, because he looks a proper greyhound. Again, he is a son of Ballymac Cashout, his first crop out of Ballymac Diva. It looks so exciting. 17:47, 17:51 around Tralee in qualifying. So clearly loads of early speed. And you saw the other night that he really does run to the line. And obviously Droopy's one stop was in second. If you haven't watched her, go and watch her, including the winner, of course. On to Heat 3, where Beeper's Lariat won for Jack Conneely and Lenny O'Hanlon, a well-bred son of Droopy Sydney out of Beaming Smasher, qualified in 28.75, 18.92 at Shelbourne, 17.56 in Newbridge, so highly thought of. Obviously showed loads of promise. 28.50, nice type. Second to that was Global Glengar, looked a nice type to a full sister, am I right? Full sister to Bobsleigh Dream. On to Heat 4, won by the laddie da for a fella called Liam Dowling. He has a couple of nice ones. Another son of Lenson Bocco from very limited numbers. He's starting to throw some nice dogs. Just don't be surprised if he turns into a proper sire. Lenson Bocco, he's a proper greyhound. Now he's turning into a proper sire. Second, Ballymac Shark for Liam Dowling. Out of Ballymac Scala, which would make it a... listen, it's closely related to the first one. Ballymac Cashew, Ballymac Scala. Ballymac Scala is the dam of Ballymac Diva. So obviously very closely related to Ballymac Walt. Also showed loads of promise in behind. Laura Main running well as well. 28.61 the winner there. The laddie da 1-2 for Liam Dowling. On to Heat 5. Hot Magic for James O'Rourke and Michael O'Sullivan, son of Ballymac Best and Nighttime Mammy. Ballymac Best has had a massive couple of weeks. 28.71. Winning from the front. Teresa's Mendoza showing plenty of ability in second spot, showed loads of pace. So too did one. Blue Boyo, I thought, ran well back in third. Onto the sixth of the heats, and this was Rye Hope Beach. I thought nothing would match Ballymac Walt in terms of the clock, but having clocked 16.39 minus 10 around Kilkenny in qualifying, it was clear he had plenty of ability. I think the market also suggested that. Obviously, with Michael O'Donovan training him, he was never going to be a big price, but yeah, 4-5, and he won by 4.5 lengths. A big run in second, also by Music Glide Away for the Pension Pan Syndicate, and a great friend of my father's back in the day, Bob Shanahan, trained by Pat Guilfoyle. I think Pat Guilfoyle has a future in the game as well. This is a son of Ewan Taylor, who's had a couple of really nice types of late as well. Of course, he won the unraced down at Clonmel with the rural dog. That's 28.12 again. Rye Hope Beach just looks a proper tool, half brother to Skywalker Barry, as we said. And then the final heat, Good Maestro, because it's sort of at the tail of the night and the action at Shelbourne Park had finished at this stage. You were hanging around and a few people sort of stand around looking, going, well, we watch the final heat. Then bang, this dog absolutely exploded from traps, winning at 4-5 and 28.27. And another one for Pat Guilfoyle and John Kennedy in behind him. Or Mystery was second, and Ballymac Samuel was a long way back off the second bend, but ran well to finish third in 28.27. So there's lots there to talk about. There's plenty in defeat that also caught the eye. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that this is a very hot juvenile classic. Tommy will go into it in more depth next week, but signs are good.
Yeah, look, you can't tell too much after one run, because you can see the exceptional efforts from some of them, but you got the couple of them that wouldn't have performed to expectation that could still turn out to be stars later on down the line. I've no doubt we'll reference this for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, no question, absolutely. And we'll be referencing, I'd say very shortly, like the Kirby is starting sort of the end of March. You'd imagine that that's going to be the natural stepping stone for a lot of these greyhounds. And given the fact that of the men that own them and whatnot, you can see most of these running in the second round. There won't be that many sold out of the opening round. Liam, 2 of his winners are already down to Syndicate, so you'd imagine the Syndicate's going to hold on to him. Liam has Ballymac Walt. You'd imagine he'll certainly hold on to him for this competition. Whether big money comes and he's tempted to part ways, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. He's worth serious money, this Ballymac Walt. Droopy's one stop. I was texting a man on the night going, there's one. Droopy's one stop. I said, I wonder, does Sean Stallone? I didn't realize it was a bitch. The bitch, it's worth fortunes to the Dumfies. I can't imagine she'll be sold on. She looks just one for the future. She's out of Droopy's Dorothy, in fact, who, while being very useful, she used to run around Harold's Cross and Shelbourne Park. Never looked like she'd be doing this sort of run. And it looks like she's breathing well. Droopy's one stop is certainly one to keep an eye on. But great competition going forward. Joe, you'll be keeping an eye on them because who knows, 1 or 2 of these might appear in Toaster. You never know. But certainly, given the fact that Racing Post Greyhound Television is covering so much Irish racing through the rest of the year, we're going to see lots of these dogs. Yeah,
it gives us a fantastic platform to work from in terms of being able to cover it. And I was just looking at the Music Glide Away dog. He's got 28.43 on debut, and maybe 4.5 lengths, whatever it was. So, that'd be the one for me to take out of the competition. I know, again, speaking to Pat yesterday, he's very keen on Treves Mendoza as well. He said that there's plenty more to come from her as well. So, it's going to be an intriguing competition going forward. And like you say, it's you're seeing dogs now. The experience they'll get before the Kirby is honestly, you can't underestimate how important that is. You're going to see completely different dogs now come 6 weeks' time when the Kirby starts, and you've got 2 unbelievable competitions to come. So bring it on. We have obviously coverage in Racing Post Greyhound Television to look forward to. The final of the Gold Cup will be on the channel on Saturday night, Joe. It makes such a difference to the competition. It gives just that added bit of profile. We know that people from the UK will be tuning in. And then, of course, we also have the Juvenile Classic decider on Racing Post Greyhound Television on Saturday, March 11th. So a couple of dates for the diary for people. Don't make too many plans on those evenings. I was surprised when I come over for the Winter Festival. I shouldn't have come over, by the way. I was in a bad way. I shouldn't have come. I was surprised how many people watch it over in Ireland as well. I had so many people coming up to me saying that they watch the show, and it's fantastic. We could give that to yourselves in Ireland. It's a brilliant platform, as we said. And you
were the super spreader, were you? You were the one. They were all coming up to you, and you were spreading your.
I shouldn't have went. I was in the show from home the night before for the first night of the Winter Festival, and it was literally I woke up in the morning, my bag was packed, and my brother said, "What are you doing?" I sat on my footstool. I went, sorry, come on. But I spent the whole day in bed. I didn't even get to experience it properly. I literally spent the whole afternoon in my hotel room, went racing, and went back to my hotel room for the evening when they all went out and got sloshed or whatever they did. So I couldn't even experience it properly. But it was a fantastic night, especially the second night. And like we say, we can offer that by giving people a chance to watch it on the show. It adds to the show as well. We want the best racing, and we're getting that with yourselves in Ireland now. We've got we miss out on plenty of competitions over this side, obviously due to the media contracts that we don't get. But we have plenty of fantastic competitions coming up, i.e. the Winter Derby, Puppy Derby, etc., and one more. And obviously, like we said, we've got the Juvenile Classic, the Gold Cup, and plenty more to come going forward into the year. So we've got a fantastic year's racing ahead.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, Tommy, the Racing Post coverage.
Huge. Absolutely huge. Yeah. I always kind of wondered and said why we didn't do something like that ourselves, a good while ago, and kind of have because there's so much good racing around the country now that we should have been showcasing it anyway. So it is great that Racing Post TV are doing it, because otherwise we wouldn't get to see it, or we'd struggle to see a lot of the stuff if you can't get to the track. So it's really good, and it benefits both sides.
Yeah, and the main man of Beyond the Ground, Robert Catterson, interviewing anything that walks, moves, or shows any sort of if you don't want to be interviewed, do not catch Robert's eye, because he will stick a microphone in there, and he is not afraid to ask the awkward questions, Tommy.
No, he's good. He's good at it. He's good, in fairness to him. He reminds me of a fella. I won't say what track it is, but there's a fella at one of the horse racing tracks, and what he used to do, and he'd say. He picks somebody up and just try to set them back on their heels a little bit. He go, "God, your tipping isn't great at the moment, is it?" Put it on the back foot completely, and you're going to go, "What is he trying to do?"
What I would say as well, guys. What I would say, if obviously we cover it, Racing Post, whatever, if you can, go and see these dogs in the flesh.
Yeah.
Go and see these dogs in the flesh. You have to go and witness this in real time and see these dogs in the flesh, because, again, you never know. Some of these could be over here in the next couple of weeks. You really don't know. So if you get a chance to go and see these, then I'd always go and see them. I love going racing. It's why I love the sport. You know, I could sit from home and watch all this and study that way. I love being part of a crowd and putting a roar up when you know you've gone round in front. And if you get a chance to go and see these, then
Joe's one of the oi brigade, Tommy. Tommy, it's something you said to me your first night up in Shelbourne Park for the Derby last year. You got to see Coulivanny Hoffa stretching out into the corner, and you said, "Listen, he looked impressive in videos, but until you see him in the flesh, it's a different scenario. You get the real scale of what these dogs are doing."
And if you're a serious punter or a farm student, there's no substitute for not seeing it live. And what I mean is, whether you're watching it on Racing Post TV or you're watching it on the track, like, if you have the result in front of you, your perception of what happened is completely different.
Yeah,
because all of a sudden you're not looking behind. You're not looking behind to see what finished second, third, because you know that they're not going to come and win the race, because the one in front, you know the result is going to win. I think when you see something live on the track is obviously best, but on television is a good second. If you, like, we've talked about the final now next week, Saturday night, so we have an expectation of what will happen. 1 and 2 will both come out quite well. Will 2 lead 1 or not? Will Born Warrior break? We have an expectation of what will happen. So in our heads, before we tip, we'll say, okay, I think 1 will just sneak through along the inside the first bend. 6 might get a little bit of a bump as it edges in. 2 might be on the tail of the top. And then when that doesn't happen, you go, oh, why did that happen? Did something show more than it should have? Than I'd expected it? Did something show less than I'd expected it? And all of a sudden, you keep that in your head forever about that dog. Say, this can do something that I didn't think it could do before. So if I don't watch it live, and I just come with the result on Sunday morning and watch the video, then you almost it's just gone out of your head in the moment, because you knew the result anyway. So all of a sudden, the actual race itself is kind of, well, that's what happened. If you know what I mean. So you build up an expectation in your head, particularly if you're somebody who has a bet. You build up expectation, and if something doesn't happen, you remember it immediately. But Tommy, if you know what the result is, waste of time.
We've been told what's going to happen. Born Warrior's a length clear of the bend, 3 lengths clear of the third bend, wins by 3 parts of a length, and Ian drops the mic on the way out.
28-19.
It's all done.
Yeah. He'll peak. That'll be the end of Ian. Retirement beckons.
Gentlemen, that's it for this Monday evening. Thank you again to the Exile Dub and to Joe, our honorary Irishman. Best of luck, gentlemen. We have a great final to look forward to in the Paddy Kehoe Suspended Ceilings Gold Cup. We have the second round of the Greyhound and Pet World Juvenile Classic also look forward to. And in the morning, we have a bucket load of pancakes to look forward to. If you're doing flat pancakes, so be it. Just plenty of flour, plenty of milk, 1 egg. And I always recommend just a little bit of olive oil. If you're doing an American-style pancake, I would suggest 130 grams of self-raising flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, 150 mils of milk, 1 egg, and just a knob of melted butter. Give that a whisk, and then teaspoon it onto a little bit of bubbling butter on a pan. Don't turn it over until it's bubbling up the back, but trust me, well worth your while. I make American pancakes for my kids, I'd say about 4 times every fortnight. So Pancake Tuesday's not much for us. What are you giving up for Lent, Tommy? Giving out?
Oh no, God no. God no. That's my favourite thing. I didn't. Next week's guest is Mary Berry.
Paul Hollywood. Joe, what are you giving up for Lent?
Takeaways.
All right. Well, I'm giving up back in losers. Right, lads, good luck and God bless. Thanks again on this for joining us in this Talking Dogs on a Monday. We'll be back in 7 days from now. We'll be discussing the final of the Paddy Kehoe Suspended Ceilings Gold Cup. We'll also be taking a look back at the second round of that Greyhound Pet World Juvenile Classic. But that's it for us this evening. Good night, good luck, God bless.